Show them all your documents. They will see you deserve no better. Okay, I will show all my documents. Hi, this is my first post in here about a thing which happened half a decade ago, but recent experience made me remember it vividly. I hope you enjoy my story. To give context, I live in Europe in a non-Anglophone country. I have always been a language nerd, and since my parents' divorce, English and everything in it, music, movies, internet, was my escape. So I was fluent before most of my classmates and got my CPE, Certificate of Proficiency in English, the highest certificate from the Cambridge Council, at 18. In my country, high schools are basically undergrad college and are finished between the age of 19-20, and a problem which almost all public schools have is terrible language teachers, most of them being former Russian teachers with minimal English or any other language education. Also, as my country is small and nobody could reasonably expect to use our language abroad, we put a huge emphasis on language studies at all levels of education, and it is often the thing which schools boast about to become more prestigious. So enough context. From early on, my last high school English teacher and I kicked it off to a bad start. The first test she gave us came back all red because of words which are not in the textbook. The terrible teacher, TT for short, would do this to me for the full final 2 years. She would take my essays and tests, and cross out any word, phrase, or structure, which was not in the textbook we were using. I maintained that I will not go as far as to learn the textbook vocabulary by heart, just to remember which synonyms I was allowed to use, just because of TT's antics. I have managed to keep an A for 3 terms because there was nothing she could mark down on my grammar. The final term, however, TT learned that I wished to go to university to do Anglophone studies, a specialization her daughter had failed to be accepted for. She told me that as an explanation why I cannot ever hope to be accepted at the start of that term, and which, among dozen other things, required good or even perfect marks from high school language lessons and accepted only 5% of applicants. TT was dead set to make me fail. She started giving me the stupidest assignments and extra tests for misbehaving in class, being finished early and silently staring at a wall, which required me to mark the exact position of Disneyland on this A4 blind map of USA. Exact quote I still remember after all those years, and more of the same shit. You could tell she was so satisfied by me failing these tests, she would have a grin on her face each time handing out the results. By this time I have been representing the school in language Olympics for both English and Spanish. She had no idea, because it was organized by another language teacher, and even though the principal made it into a big deal, TT was plainly uninterested. I have placed 3rd in the capital city district in Spanish and 6th nationwide in English. Not listing this to brag, okay, my a bit, but to use it later. By the end of the term she got my mark down to a C. Mind you, all the grammar was still A's, but her blind maps of tourist attractions had taken their toll. I went to her to reason with her, but her reaction was, if you think a different teacher would propose a different mark, take all of your documents and go to one of my colleagues. But I believe it is clear to anyone that you do not deserve any better. So I did. I took all my documents. The bloody blind maps, the grammar tests, my by then a year-old PCE certificate and my 6th place diploma. I went to the teacher who organized the competitions and explained my situation. She was furious. She took this to the principal, and even though I was waiting outside, I could hear him yell at TT, "You are trying to fail the student who was representing us at the national level of competitions." It also turned out that with the CPE I had, by that time, a higher level of English education than TT had. I got my A. I got to the uni and I love it there. I also started my own tiny language school where, among of course teaching the language to whoever is interested, I help kids whose language teachers are incompetent and or power hungry morons. The impulse for me to write this was walking by the high school last week and meeting TT. She acted like we have always been best buddies. A couple of my students are her students as well, so she knows about me. She hugged me in front of the high school kids present and exclaimed that I got where I was thanks to working hard in her lessons. I am still pissed I did not get the courage to tell her off there and then.